Hey crafty people, it's Tasha, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking part in Altenews Dreams Come True, May 2022 release, and I'm going to be talking stamp layering, so my tips and basics for stamp layering. So the first thing that I always do is to open up that trifold that you get with the sets and look at the layering guide. Oh, forgot to say, this is the Wispy Joy set that is part of this release, and it's just gorgeous. So I've put all of the outline stamps in my MISTI. Then I'm going to stamp them onto some Neenah £80 cardstock. So the first thing that I do is make sure that the stamp outlines that I stamp down are oriented the same way as they are in the layering guide, because that's going to make it so much easier. I'm pointing out there the different red lines that you can see. So I'm turning and twisting the stamp round to get it the same way, and that's why I make sure that the outlines are stamped in the same orientation, because it just makes it a lot easier for yourself. So those red lines show you the bit of that image that you need to make sure lines up. Because if you make sure all of those red line areas are in the right place, everything else will just fall into place. Because sometimes it is difficult. Not all of the images are going to follow exactly the same outline, because they're going to have different parts that you're stamping at a time. So that's why you should always look at the layering guide at the red marks, and that will tell you which parts of the stamp are meant to line up together. Now, I also like to start with my lightest colours when I'm stamping sets like this, but if you don't have a lot of different sets, then you can definitely use the same ink and just stamp it multiple times to get a darker image. So you're not going to have quite as much contrast as if you use darker inks each time, but it is a different way to try it. Maybe you want it a little bit more subtle, and also it's a great way to stretch the supplies that you have if for whatever reason you don't or can't have lots and lots of ink colours. So again, with that next piece, I'm looking at the layering guide and the bits that need to match up. I also, every time I stamp, every single time you stamp, you need to make sure that your cardstock is right down in the corner. So for me, I use a MISTI, so I want to make sure that the cardstock is right down in that bottom corner of the MISTI. But whatever stamp positioning tool you use, just make sure that your paper hasn't shifted any, which sometimes it can do when you lift the lid back up. The stamp can sort of pull the paper a little bit and displace it slightly, and you're going to get, it's not going to be in the right place. So you always want to make sure that that is back where it's supposed to be. So each image might have a different number of layers. So these larger flowers, they've got more layers than that smaller one. So you just want to keep checking back to that layering guide. And these little stamps that create the middle of the flowers, I just find it so much easier and quicker to stamp these with an acrylic block. Obviously, if you don't feel you want to do that, then of course you can use your MISTI or whatever stamp positioning you like to use, but I just find it's just quicker for me to just add them on an acrylic block. So now I'm going to finish the rest of our card. This is the Always Be Kind stamp and stencil set, which coordinates with a previous release die set. So I've stamped out the sentiment and I want to cut it with what was the shadow for the two-part die. But you can't see through that die to get it in the right place. So my best tip for that is to cut it from some scrap paper. Then you want to position that over your image so that your image or sentiment, whatever it may be, is perfectly lined up in that little window opening, and then pop your die back down into place, and you're going to have a perfectly positioned die with an equal border all the way around. So that works brilliantly for those kind of solid dies, but also, to be honest, it could work for anything. You could do that for any of your die cutting. Then I don't chuck away that piece that I've die cut from. I put that back in the packaging so it's there the next time that I want to do this. And I used the piece that was cut from that to go behind my centre of it as well, to give it a little bit more dimension. Win, win, win. So this is an older stamp set, Woven Stripes, and I'm just inking this up with some grey ink I wanted a little bit of interest in the background, but these large stamps, I find it's easier to just ink them up on your desk and put the cardstock down onto them, and I feel like that just works better and is quicker. So I like to add strips of vellum, which you will see if you've seen some of my other cards, but this time I wanted to try something new, and I'm so glad that I did because I love it and I'm going to use it more. So I made that I tore that strip of vellum, and before I stuck it down, I screwed it up. Like you saw, I really screwed it up. It was not easy to screw up. It is definitely harder to screw up than with paper. But I wanted to add some, just some dimension, some interest and texture, and I just really love how it came out, so I'm totally using that again. I've added it in my usual way to add vellum, which is to stick it to the back, wrap it round, and then I'm just positioning everything at where I want it to go. And once I'm happy with the positioning for it, I'm using some of the satin masking tape to hold it together so that I'm not going to lose that display that I've put together. So I've added some glue to the back bits, and then I did add some foam tape to a couple of... No, I didn't. No, I just stuck it all down. I just stuck it all straight down. And then I did some white sequins, the satin white sequins, and I love this card. I think it may be my favourite that I made for this release. I really love it. Let me know what you think. And if you have any other questions or need some help with stamp layering, then do reach out and I'm happy to help. Please subscribe if you aren't already, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. I hope that you have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye!